Now, at that time, DRBA had no way place here. We had no temple or monastery here in Malaysia at that time. So they rented a big hall, a big assembly hall for us to use. So it was big enough to hold a couple of thousand people. And so it was pretty full of people. And they were very curious about the Dharma and the Venerable Master. So Shifu gave lecture at that time. So after the lecture, Shifu says, Amawanti, does anybody have a question? And one of the ladies in the audience says, I have a daughter. She's only 12 years old, but she can't talk. She hasn't talked since she was very small. She just stopped talking. And so Shifu says, yes, because she has a demon. And the demon's holding her back from talking. So Shifu did some mantras and told the little Xiaohai to speak. Go ahead and talk. So the little girl goes, wah, makes a big noise. So everybody goes, oh. So the next day, all kinds of people come with crutches and wheel in on wheelchair, and they all want Shifu to cure them. So Shifu says, nope, no can do, sorry. He says, then he told the story. He said when he was young, he was on a ferry boat in China. And this ferry boat had a lot of people on it. And one old guy came by one time. He's just sitting there as a young monk. And Shifu had a walking stick with him. And the old man came to him and says, my leg really hurts, Shifu. Can you do something to help me, recite for me? So Shifu took his cane and hit him on the leg, just tapped him lightly on the leg, and his leg felt much better. So everybody on the ferry, oh, he's got Shintong. He could save me. So they all came up with all kinds of, I got a bad hand, I got a bad leg, blah, blah, blah. Got all these problems. And Shifu's going, okay, Omi Tofo, blah, 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 blah. He's tapping all these people, making them better. And this went on for a while. So they had big lines of people wanting to go bow to Shifu and have them cure their illness. So very quickly, things started to change. The atmosphere around the ferry boat, they were out in the ocean, and the ferry boat was in the ocean, and there was a big, the weather changed from really nice day to a really bad day. All of a sudden, all the clouds got up and caused a lot of wind and storm, and the seas got very high, and it looked like the ship was going to sink. So all of a sudden, everybody was terrified on the ship because they thought the ship's going to sink. They're all going to drown. And Shifu realized he'd made a mistake by saving all these people from their illness because he's causing the balance of heaven and earth to get out of balance. And all the ocean spirits, the sea spirits, the dragons, the gods, the spirits all went and got angry at Shifu for causing this imbalance of heaven and earth. So he learned his lesson, and he prayed to Guan Yin to please not let all those people drown. They can drown him. He says, please drown me, but don't let these people die on the ship. They didn't know any better. It's all my fault. And Guan Yin settled the whole thing down. All of a sudden, the ocean became still again. The clouds went away, and everything became still. And Shifu learned, he says he learned from that Dharma that you don't casually go around and change things unless you have deep wisdom. So the Master always told us, if you ever get the ability to do these kind of things like cure people's illness, don't just casually go out there and cure all these illnesses, because although it seems like a compassionate thing to do on the surface, you don't know the causes and conditions of each person. And until you have deep wisdom, don't try to change things. So anyway, we had this big bunch of people in Malaysia coming in with their wheelchairs and their gurneys from the hospital, and they all wanted Shiva to heal them. He said, sorry, we can't do it that way. It was kind of like a zoo. You wouldn't believe it. We had a couple of thousand people all coming with crutches and wheelchairs and ambulances and everything. It was pretty wild. So I've been overseas with Shifu a few times, and I notice every time I kind of like an attendant, always with him. So when at the end of the lecture, he'd usually sit in the back of the hall and people come and make offerings. And so we would help with that, and people come up and bow to Shifu. And he would tell me, all these people coming to bow to me. He says, you know what I see? I said, I don't know, Shifu. I thought you'd just see people. He says, no, I don't look at whether they're women or men or young or old. I don't look whether they're beautiful or ugly. He says, I only look at their Buddha natures. And all I see is their Buddha natures. And I look at their Buddha nature and see what I have to do to have them wake up to their Buddha nature. He used to tell us that he's only here on this earth to get people to wake up and cultivate and see and become Buddhas. He says, otherwise I don't want to be here. This world is like a toilet to him. He says, I don't have any wish to be here. He says, if I can't make people become Buddhas, then I don't want to stay. Now, the bhikshus in the left home with Shifu, the first Americans, were back in the 1960s. And they went to Taiwan to receive the precepts. They came back. And anyway, they were telling me a story about one time they were having releasing life ceremony. And they needed to go get some birds. In San Francisco, we used to go buy pigeons, and sometimes we buy pheasant or pigeon birds to release so that they don't have to die. They don't have to be put to death, so we can release them as part of the releasing life ceremony in Buddhism. So they were told to go to the place where it's called a hatchery, where they have all these little birds and buy birds to release. So these couple of monks and a couple of lay guys, they went over and bought a bunch of pigeons and put them in the trunk of the car. They bought these little cages with all the pigeons in them, put them in the back of the car in the trunk. And we're driving back to the temple, but it was a hot day, and they said, let's go in here to A&W Root Beer and have a nice root beer. It was cold, and we can have maybe a root beer float. So they forgot about the birds in the trunk, which are getting really hot from the sun, and they're out there having their root beer float, and they're taking their time to go to the temple, and they finally get to Waverly Place, the Buddhist lecture hall, Waverly Place, with the birds in the trunk, and they opened the trunk, and some of the birds had died from the heat. So they felt real bad. They brought the cages upstairs to show Shifu, and Shifu, what do we do? The bird died. Shifu looked at it and goes, I don't know. Why don't you eat them? So this is the way Shifu would teach us sometimes. He says, because you guys are so greedy for your root beer float, you forgot about the birds. You don't take care of the birds. That's the reason you're supposed to go get them in the first place. Now you get them really in the trunk where they can't breathe and are hot and they go to dying, and you're having your root beer float. When I first met the master, he was, I didn't have a chance to ask him I wanted to ask him about my situation, but I only spoke English and I didn't know how to approach him. So, but I would sit there and watch him. He had these pigeons that would hang around, the ones they release, live pigeons. They release them, but they don't want to go away. They want to stay and listen to the Dharma. So they were in the temple a lot of times, and they'd go up and they'd land right on Shifu's shoulder and just sit there on his shoulder. And Shifu had this long, thin, like a flower vase kind of jar, and there was bird seed at the bottom, and had a thin neck like that. And there was the bird seed on the bottom, and the bird would try to stick their neck down the bottle to get to the bird seed, and Shifu would hold it like that. So people say, oh, Shifu, why are you teasing the bird? Why are you doing that? And Shifu would go, well, these birds were my disciples in past life, and now they're birds. I told them how to cultivate, and they don't listen. Now they're birds, and now I'm going to teach them not to be so greedy. And so that's the way it is. The master made these vast vows as he's going to wait for all his disciples to become Buddhas. So he gets very discouraged when he sees his past life cultivators all of a sudden don't follow the rules and don't cultivate and become birds. Now they have to start over again. So that's why he's say, why you people, why you don't cultivate, become Buddha quickly? I have to wait for you. Now I have to wait for these birds. So that's my story about the master coming to Malaysia. So that's all I got. Anybody have questions? Can ask questions. Omi Tofo. Yeah, just come up to the front and you can use the microphone.
There's a mic there in the middle.
Oh, yeah, you can use that mic. I guess you're talking about the 42 hands and eyes. 42 hands and eyes is the secret school Dharma door. It's part of the secret school. And why is it secret? Well, because we don't want people to misuse it. A lot of people want to learn the 42 hands and eyes so they think they'll get power that way and they can control other people or become famous, become and say, I know the 42 hands, I can give you all kind of special magic. But that's not the purpose of the 42 hands and eyes. The 42 hands and eyes is for cultivation. It's so that you become, you cultivate the way and learn expedient means to save all living beings. Each of the 42 hands is about the saving of other living beings. It's not to promote the person. It's not to promote you to become some kind of magic or magician or some kind of big shifu. It's for you to have a mind of compassion and to use expedient means to save all living beings. A lot of people want to learn the 42 hands to promote themselves rather than to save living beings. So we are very careful about who is transmitted the 42 hands and eyes. But it's basically, I remember the first time I ever ran across the 42 hands and eyes with Shifu. It was the first time he transmitted them to the Sangha. And that was back in Gold Mountain days, back in the 1970s. And he taught us the 42 hands and eyes himself. And he says, this is a very, very special Dharma door. It's not to be used casually, and it's not to be used to show off. It's to be used to help living beings and to help your cultivation to become a Buddha. So you got to take it seriously, and it's transmitted. In fact, Shifu didn't transmit the 42 hands and eyes to lay people for many, many years. Only a few Sangha members, even the whole Sangha, all of our own Sangha didn't learn it. It was many years later, Shifu expanded it and says, okay, you can now teach it to others, but it's got to be very special. You have to go through a kind of like a program, like a teaching first, before you're transmitted the 42 hands and eyes. So they have a program at Wanfacheng almost every year where you can go and take, if you already have the Bodhisattva precepts, you can go and study the 42 hands and eyes. And they're transmitted to not a really big group of people. It's usually people who are really sincere and understand the principles involved. And even when they teach it, you can't write down notes. You can't record anything. You have to memorize it on the spot. So that's how Shifu taught it. So it's a special Dharma door. It's usually for people who've taken the Bodhisattva precepts and are really sincere and want to use it for cultivation, not to promote themselves. So that's the purpose of the 42 hands and eyes. It's not usually everybody just goes and casually learns it. It's something that's very special. And it takes quite a procedure to do it. That's why they only do it at Wanfacheng maybe once a year. Sometimes they don't even do it every year. Sometimes they do it every other year or sometimes. So it's not something you casually do or you read on the internet or something. It's not like that at all. It's a secret school Dharma. And the reason this is secret school is not to hold secrets. It's really about so you don't misuse it. So you don't use the 42 hands and eyes to gain power over others or to become famous and things like that. You have to have a very pure heart when you study the 42 hands and eyes. I didn't quite understand what you said. Something about if he learned it from what?
From Tripitaka on his own. Without transmission from his own. He learned on his own.
It's a secret Dharma door. You learn it properly or you don't learn it. If you read it somewhere on the internet or you found it somewhere in a book, that isn't 42 hands and eyes. It might have the words, but you haven't been transmitted properly. It's a Dharma door. It's a special Dharma door, and it's for people who are truly sincere and want to learn it to cultivate and save all living beings, not for somebody who wants to have Shintung or something. A lot of people want to go and learn it because they say, oh, it's magic. I'm going to have power. I'm going to be able to transform things. So that's not the reason for the 42 hands and eyes. So you have to look at your own heart. Why do you want to learn it? What is your purpose? What is your motivation? Why do you really want to learn it? Okay, Omitopo. Shamonti. Anybody else have any questions? No? Going. Oh, we got one.
Ni, hoping Mike.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
she want to ask.
The real meaning is you want to really be enthusiastic and go to the West. That means don't be lazy.
最重要的意义就是说我们要有更加的努力精神，然后不可以懒惰懈怠。
You want to go to Amitabha's Pure Land, not because you want to go on a vacation. That's not the reason. The reasons you want to go to the Pure Land is so you can cultivate and become a Buddha or a Bodhisattva and a Buddha. It depends on your own. When you get there, that's a place that's really. They say it's the land of ultimate bliss, but it really is blissful. But it's not the kind of bliss where you kick back and get in the lounge chair and enjoy the sun. It's not like that. It's a place where you can really finish cultivating the way, and you're not reborn in the Saha world. In other words, you're not born as a human or an animal anymore. You don't only have to go through one more rebirth, and you're back. You can become a Buddha. And some people make vows to become bodhisattvas and then Buddhas. Sometimes they say, I wish to stay within the realm of living beings and cross them over and make great vows. Some people do that too. And they leave it up to you. Amitabha is totally compassionate. If he says, if you want to become a Buddha, you can become a Buddha. If you want to be a great bodhisattva and help others, you can do that too. So it's up to you, but you're not going to fall back to the world again. You're not going to be stuck as a human or an animal. You're there. You have a chance. It's not a vacation. It's not a place. The Pure Land's not a vacation place. It's not a cruise ship. So it's a place. They call it the place of. You also bathe in the Buddha's light. You have the Amitabha who has infinite life and infinite light. So you see that. He's around you all the time. You get to be in that. So you're totally joyful. It's a really great place to be. I mean, you can't ask for more. You're very, very, you truly are in bliss, but you realize that you're cultivating too, and you can get a lot done. You can really attain the way quickly up in the land of ultimate bliss. That's what they call it, ultimate bliss, because eventually you can just go to nirvana if you want to. You don't even have to be reborn at all. I'll have to tell you a little secret. When you start cultivating the way and you get some response, what happens is your heart starts to get really big. In other words, some of us are really selfish people. We're very selfish normally with our everyday mind. But if you start waking up to the way, that starts to dissipate. That starts to go away. And all of a sudden your heart starts to grow really big. And you have huge compassion for all the suffering living beings around you. It's just natural. It happens to everybody. So you start waking up and you go, oh, you see everybody else around you suffering. All you want to do is help them. That's why we have a Guanyin. That's why we have a Ditsang. That's why we have Amitabha. That's why we have all the great bodhisattvas. Their hearts are huge and universally big. And they see all this suffering. All they want is to help people become Buddhas. It just takes over. It's like this huge thing that happens. Your whole personality changes. So this will happen. I mean, you get up there and all of a sudden, you can become a Buddha. You can go right into nirvana if you want. But what usually happens is your heart starts to get so big and you start seeing all these sentient beings in the Saha world and all the other worlds, and you start, I just want to help them. Now that you have this power, now that you've woken up to the way, now that you've attained arhatship, you start getting more and more wisdom. You start seeing what's going on, and you just have nothing but heart. You want to save all these beings. Look at Guanyin. Been around for unspeakable aeons, helping all sentient beings who recite Guanyin's name. Amitabha is the same way. He's made vast vows to have people come to the Pure Land to help them, because he has this gigantic heart. So it's the nature of the function of becoming a Buddha, becoming a Bodhisattva. It just happens. And it's kind of a universal thing that happens to all living beings who start to cultivate and truly cultivate and attain some wisdom. Okay? Someone, anybody else got a
还有
question?
什么问题吗？
Well, it's about, the master was talking to me and my problems, not to you necessarily, but every one of us have different attachments. In my case, I was attached to the idea of becoming enlightened. I wanted to have a Kai Wu experience. So I'm greedily trying to attain Kai Wu. And Shifu says, it doesn't work that way. You can't grab at enlightenment. It's the opposite. You have to let go. You have to let go of the idea of enlightenment. You have to let go. Don't be grabbing at it. You cultivate just to cultivate. He says, just practice to practice. Be aware, be, be mindful. Just practice mindfulness and carry out your day, and don't be greedy. And then enlightenment will naturally come to you. If you start to grab at it, it'll just be elusive. It's like trying to grab a cloud in the sky. It's going to take off and fly away. But it comes to you naturally when you cultivate, and you don't be greedy for it. Don't look for some kind of reward. Let that go. Just cultivate, be mindful, and it'll come naturally to you. And we all have this Buddha nature in us, so sooner or later it's going to come. So it's kind of like that. It's also, the master always told us, you cultivate, you're doing what's called good karma. If you're practicing properly, if you're reciting the Buddha's name, if you're being mindful, you're creating money in the bank, in your karmic bank. We all have a karmic bank account. It's kind of like it doesn't forget. So all the good karma we do, especially when you're cultivating, all that goes into your karmic bank. It goes into your bank account. And also bad things you do also goes into your bank account. So you got to be careful not to get involved with doing bad things, because that can add up pretty bad and then end up doing bad, leading to a bad future. So you try to do good things and create your karmic good bank account. And so don't think you're wasting your time. When you bow Buddha, when you recite, and be mindful, even if you don't get rewarded right away, you're still got the Buddha nature. I mean, we all have this Buddha nature with us. We keep forgetting that. Every one of us has a Buddha nature right here, right now. And one of the famous sayings in Buddhism is the Pure Land is just here. We're right here in the Pure Land right now. We're just not recognizing it. Well, traditionally in Buddhism, we do 49 days recitation for your loved one who died, for instance. When a person dies, it's called the intermediate skandha body. You have this kind of body. It's not the same as this body, but it has the same shape. It's kind of like this energy field. It goes outside. It doesn't know what to do. See, that's the trouble with birth and death. You get totally wiped out. I mean, you don't know nothing when you die. It's like it's like your hard drive is wiped clean. You don't know nothing. It's like somebody hit you over the head with a sledgehammer. You know nothing. So you have to rely on all the living beings around you, that like your relatives, your close relatives, in the venerable, the sangha, and anybody else that can help with your energy, because you don't know what's going on. You're totally, how do you say, you're totally being controlled by the karma you've created in your entire life and in past lives. So all that is coalescing around you, and you kind of hang around this body. You're not a human being anymore, so you don't have a human brain or anything. You just have this kind of energy field that hangs around this body that you're so used to, that you've lived in for decades, so many decades. you really don't know what else to do. So your family recites for you to help you cross over so you can go off to rebirth. So your energy will go back and go through the cycle of rebirth to keep you moving so you don't end up as a ghost. So you helping your family. Now, is it exactly 49 days? No, of course not. I mean, it could be. Everybody's different. Everybody has different causes and conditions. I asked, when my mother died, I said, I had dreams every month. My mom would come and we'd go out to lunch together in my dream with my mom. And she'd say, everything's okay. And she'd tell me, I'm fine. I'm not in the heavens and I'm not in the hells. But Shifu came and helped me a lot. She's really in awe of our teacher. She didn't know when she was alive what he really was. So she just said, he really helped me a lot. And so I told Shifu, then it stopped. I mean, after a few months, she didn't take me to lunch anymore. No more free lunches from my mom. So I told Shifu, my mom doesn't take me to lunch anymore in my dream. Shifu said, yeah, she's gone off to rebirth. So everybody's different. Yeah, so you just want to be really sincere for your relative, whoever passed away, and just recite for them and try to help them by reciting for them and transfer all the merit of your recitation to them. And then it helps. All that energy helps. And of course, if you can get the Sangha to put a pai way up, that helps a lot too. Anyway, Omi Tofo.